Hey, what's going on? Ryan Kohler here, founder of Applicant Pro, CEO of Refer, and today we're going to talk about how to turn your job alerts into a powerful employer branding and recruitment marketing tool. Let's jump right in. Look, job alerts and those individuals signing up to get alerted the next time you post a job as an employer are one of the most overlooked sources of applicants, and not just sources of applicants, but power and ability to drive your employer brand out there in your talent pool, whether it's driving awareness of who you are, just your name awareness and name recognition, or actual awareness of your reputation, your culture, your values, all that kind of stuff that job seekers are looking for as they're out looking for a job. Job alerts are a great way to do it. And so we're going to talk today about, but let me start with my recruiting story in case you don't know my background. Applicant Pro, I started almost 2 decades ago, built an ATS system, and along with providing applicant tracking and hiring software for over 10,000 companies, I also had my own team. We grew from one part-time mom to 300 employees through downturns, through COVID, through you name it. And one of the big powers that we had was this ability to generate a massive number of applicants anytime we wanted to hire. If you look at the stats on the right-hand side, you'll see it. When I stepped down as CEO about a year and a half ago, we had 35,000 subscribers for job alerts. We would generate 450 applicants per hire, and 20 of those were employee referrals. We weren't spending big money on job boards. In fact, we weren't spending any money on job boards. This was all organic referrals and, yes, job alerts. But if we look at kind of like, let me just give you some data on what this means. From Applicant Pro's perspective, they now have almost 50,000 subscribers. That's how much it's changed even in just a 1-year period. They send 83,000 open emails a month, 156,000 sends with a 53% open rate. But if you actually look at all of the metrics combined, we send 100 million emails a month to job seekers with a 60% open rate on average. That's a huge deal when you start thinking about it. Email is a huge overlooked thing when it comes to generating applicant flow for your business and, more importantly, building up your employer brand. While texting is super sexy and may get a more instantaneous result, it also gets a more instantaneous result of people opting out. You simply can't be sending text messages to people who are not active, who are passive candidates, without them getting tired of it. And email is a much more stable way to go about managing your subscriber base. So let's talk about sourcing, because I can tell you applicant sourcing honestly is one of my superpowers. It's been my specialty since the very beginning. Back in the early days when we were building our ATS, this would have been 2006, 2008, we would get asked all the time, hey, can you help us post our job to more job boards? As employers were struggling to find enough applicants, they would instantly go to, well, we just need more reach. If we could just get our job ad in front of more people, it would get us more applicants. And to be honest, it was true in the early days. If their jobs weren't on Indeed, if they weren't on ZipRecruiter, if they weren't on Glassdoor, and they were just using newspapers or using Monster, CareerBuilder, or whatever the case may be, our clients would see an instant bump in applicants by pushing to more job boards. And for a while there, it was like a big competition of who posted to the most job boards. But at some point, once your jobs are on the top 5 or top 10 job boards out there, adding more job boards isn't going to help, because there's just not that many job boards out there that you aren't already on that actually get good traffic. So when we look at kind of sourcing and how to build a powerful sourcing engine for your jobs, we start by looking at reach and urgent candidates. We're targeting active, maybe a little bit passive candidates. We're getting massive audience, and most of that comes from job board postings. And so for us, we just ran out of new job boards. We would look at our source reports for our clients, and we'd see, hey, they're generating a ton of views. In the early days with the career sites, we're generating a ton of views. We're generating a ton of applicants for each hire. That might be 50 applicants or 100 applicants per hire. That might be 1,000 or 500 views on their career site for every one hire. And so we came up with an idea and said, well, what happens to all those people that they don't hire? Now, look, if you get 100 applicants to hire one of them, yeah, it's true that 20% of those people are what we would call heck no's. We're never going to hire that person. They're not a good culture fit. They're not a good values fit, etc. But there's a high percentage, 70, 80% of those people that are just not right nows. they don't have the right experience as of today, but 6 months and 12 months and 18 months from now, they might actually be a great fit for the job. And there's a percentage of them that we didn't get a chance to look at all, or we didn't get past their resume or something like that. Again, because they just aren't a fit today. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't hire them in the future. So we looked at kind of the way Amazon and the way Etsy and the way different websites approach this kind of concept of what do they do with the visitors who don't buy. And the answer was they create a pop-up and allow them or ask them to sign up for their newsletter. So we took that same approach. We built a little widget, sits on everybody's career site, and it says sign up for job alerts. You offer a high value, low commitment call to action, and that's what we were doing. Effectively saying, look, we may not hire you today, but we'd love to stay in touch. We'd like, and that doesn't mean we put your resume on file and told you, oh, we'll look at it again and never look at it. We're instead going to automate sending out these email job alerts. And so this gave us kind of a way to remarket jobs to bring people back in the future. And that's probably the best way to think about it, is that for every one hire, you're gathering up 50 plus people who are saying, look, even if you don't hire me, I still want to stay in touch. And over time, our client base is building up a significant subscriber base. We're sending out emails of these jobs. Now, stage 3 of sourcing was we went back to the job boards and suddenly Easy Apply showed up. This said, can we make it easier to apply? We saw an increase of about 300% of applicant flow when it became something that job seekers could stay on the job boards and apply with their account. The problem was it decreased the number of job alert subscribers because those job seekers were no longer landing on the career page. And so just in the last year, we went back and said, okay, now it's time to expand beyond just our widget that's on the career site, but also allow job seekers to subscribe for job alerts as they're applying for jobs on job boards. This boosted us to over 30,000 people per day opting into job alerts for employers. And so over the last year, we've been sending a ton of emails compared to before, almost 500 million specific emails for a group of employers with a 65% open rate, almost unheard of in the email marketing world. And I'll explain why that is in a minute here, but our open rate has actually been going up. For us at Refer, we're email marketers. When it comes down to it, we email market jobs to job seekers for employers. And so in Q1 of this year, our open rate is now 82.5%. We've had this consistent increase as we've looked at how do we tune these emails that we send to make them more likely to get open. Now, over the last few months, Google's announced some new rules and Yahoo's followed suit. And pretty much anybody who's anyone who provides free email online is following these rules, effectively saying bulk email senders need to comply with some things to make sure they're not spam. Now, the bottom two here are pretty easy. The authenticate their email comes down to validation and verification. You're basically saying, are you who you say you are? Do you control the email addresses? Or are you a spammer or a scammer or somebody like that? And it just has to do with setting things up the right way. Rule number 2 is it easy to subscribe or unsubscribe? That's something we've had all the time, meaning you don't run them through a gauntlet. You don't send them through a maze. You just let them click once. But rule number 3 is the most important thing when it comes to email marketing, and that is ensure that they're sending email that's wanted. Now, this one might be a little counterintuitive, so let me explain it. If I'm a job seeker and I'm on your career site and I sign up to receive job alerts today, I clearly want the email you send me when you send me those alerts. But 6 months from now, if I get a new job and I'm no longer actively looking, your emails may become unwanted. It doesn't mean you're spamming me or sending me doing something evil. It just means the desire to receive an email from you that just tells me about your open jobs has gone down. And if you think about job seekers over time, they kind of go through cycles. Sometimes they want job alerts, sometimes they don't. And so it's important to be able to figure out how do we make sure that there is value being sent, that there's variation and variety. So let me explain a little bit how Refer does things because it's a bit different. We're not just sending out an alert like a newsletter where we grab all 10,000 people and send them the same email with all the same jobs. And we're not doing what you would do in your ATS system if you went and looked at your past applicants, grabbed all the individuals and sent them all a mass email send. What we're actually doing is something much more robust that requires a lot of technology. We're actually taking the job seekers one at a time. We're creating a unique email for them based off of what jobs they want versus what jobs you have open, based off of our introductions and our greetings, and based off of adding value besides just the job alert. We do have challenges just like everybody else does when it comes to job alerts. And it really comes down to this one thing. Unless you're actively seeking a job today, the emails that you're receiving, whether it's coming from Refer, directly from an employer, or whether it's coming from a job board, etc., become less valuable over time. Sending the same email over and over again with the same exact jobs, while it does build up the name recognition of the employer, meaning when I see it, I recognize them as an employer, it doesn't exactly improve reputation or differentiation or credibility. And so to us, we now look at the bottom half of this and say, hey, we've got the reach. The jobs are on all the job boards. We're remarketing and sending all these job alerts. But what can we do to increase the power of the content? And that really comes down to adding more value. How do we make sure that it's not just name recognition we're getting, but we're actually building up the employer brand in the mind of the job seeker, the reputation, differentiation, credibility. And it really comes down to these two core things. How can we make our job ads more engaging instead of posting the same boring ad as everybody else and leaving it live all the time or reusing it over and over and over? And number two, can we send more valuable content besides just job ads? That value thing is important. And let's talk about value. Value has nothing to do with the employer and everything to do with the job seeker. Let me restate that in a different way. The value an email has nothing to do with the person sending it. It has everything to do with the person receiving it. And if you think about job seekers, they kind of go in this cycle. They may be actively looking for a job today and they apply and they subscribe to get alerts, but then they move from actively applying to actively interviewing to actively actually getting hired. And if they do get hired, now they're no longer actively looking because they just got a new job. So they're working and studying. They're trying to get better at the job. They're trying to learn their new job, all those kind of things. They're hopefully growing within that organization. Maybe they're going to school and studying, or maybe they're building and expanding their career path. And at some point, they run out of growth at that one employer and say, I'm ready for my next opportunity. And it brings them back around again. Now, if you stop and think about, say you had 50,000 subscribers who'd subscribe for job alerts, you could look at each one of them and say, well, they're each individually in a different area of this cycle. And so part of the challenge when you send emails is to say, how can we make sure that each individual gets something of value inside the email? So to us, that means expanding what we send in our email structure, adding in tips and tricks, adding in not just job seeker tools, but also career tips and career ideas, and expanding beyond just the content about the job to instead start talking about the employer brand and what they're doing in the world and the industry and news and all that kind of stuff. Now, we clearly at the base level provide our own content for our employers, but employers that really want to do more have massive ability to do more by customizing their job alerts based off of coming up with their own subject and intros and rotating their job titles to target different job seekers who might be interested in the job, and including industry news and employer brand stories and career path and advice and job seeker tips and tricks. All of this kind of content is valuable to different job seekers at different times in their job seeker career cycle, or in different career path systems, or where they're at. And so for us, that means we have to help employers come up with content. And this is really where Refer's new admin area is creating so much power for our clients. Beyond just sending out job alerts and sending out emails, we actually are assisting employers in coming up with their unique employer value proposition, in telling their employer brand story, in creating that content that they need inside of this newsletter. It's beyond just creating content for your career site. It's about creating information consistently that will drive up the value to the idea in the mind of the job seekers. So we actually have our own magical AI writing tool that will take all the information about the employer and their industry and their company and their core values and their founding story and all that kind of stuff, and start curating and helping them draft content that they can then take, edit, and throw into the mixer to send out to their job subscribers. We provide data on, it's a little bit unique for HR people, to now be looking at the world through the lens of email marketers. But effectively, that's what we provide is analytics that show them how many subscribers do they have, and break that out between new subscribers and active subscribers and hot subscribers based off of how often they're opening emails, and showing them their activity, how many emails are being sent, and what is our open rate and our click rate, all that type of stuff that you would expect from a normal email marketing platform. But the return on investment of email marketing is a bit hard to track, whether you're doing email marketing for a product or whether you're doing email marketing for a job. And the reason is quite simple, is that most applicant tracking systems track sources based off of the last source before somebody applied. We'll call this direct applicant sourcing. And inside of an ATS system, like Applicant Pro is a good example, you end up with a source report that shows what job board the job seekers were on when they clicked to apply. The problem is that there's a lot of other ways that employers are influencing applicants besides just that last point of contact. And we call this influence. It's how are we influencing job seekers a year or 6 months or a month before they apply, regardless of what job board is that last point of contact. It requires a little bit more effort to track your ROI on this. Quite simply though, you take and you export your subscriber base with their email address and the date they subscribe. You export your applicants for a given period of time with their email and the date they applied. And you export even if you want your hires with email and the date they were hired. And when you compare these things together, you end up with this ability to create some really cool influence reports. Applicants influenced by job alerts. This basically tells you what percentage of your applicants, and this is real case study data here, of applicants being influenced before they apply through a job board, regardless of what job board that is. You end up with higher influence. People who are hired before or being influenced before they apply and therefore before they get hired. And once you fix that in your mind, that you're influencing these individuals, it brings us back to, well, what are we influencing them about? How can we create content that is valuable, that is valuable to the job seekers, that elevates our brand as an employer, that elevates our reputation as an employer, that elevates our relationship and expands our relationship with these individuals beyond just sending job alerts. And that really is what Refer is all about. If you would like to learn more, we would love to chat. There's 2 options here. Option number 1, attend a Q&A session. Option number 2, schedule a strategy call. Just so you know, we integrate with ATS systems and have the ability to integrate with almost any ATS system. Effectively meaning you don't have to repost your jobs or anything like that. We scrape all the jobs off your ATS system. We gather all your applicants, your subscribers together, and we do all the heavy lifting of taking and sorting through all that to send out the right email to the right job seeker on a continual basis to elevate your relationship and your brand in their mind. So, love to talk. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you later.